Hey guys, so this is something that's been on my mind for a while, but now something just happened, I guess, a few days ago, and it triggered me wanting to talk about it more in depth with you guys, and I want to see what you think about this. So, to give the Cliff Notes version, I'm sure plenty of you guys know that Rose McGowan is like probably the most vocal victim out of everybody who's come forward with the Harvey Weinstein allegations. And there's a clip on YouTube that you can check out of her like flipping out at this trans person at a book signing. Basically, she came out with her story and she's doing a docuseries now. She's doing a lot of press. She's coming out with a book. Her Twitter, every tweet is about everything that's happening with this. And at her book signing, a trans person basically just went off on her. I guess they pretended they were asking a question, and then they were like, what have you done for trans people? And you've said terrible things about trans people, and da-da-da. And obviously I think that person was kind of a jerk for showing up and trying to shame her and steal the spotlight to say something that, isn't that relevant to the conversation. Like, complaining about her not helping trans people it doesn't imply that her story is less valid and that her book isn't her authentic moment of her truth, right? But that being said, first off, she totally flipped out at this person, and she was yelling and screaming, and she said, what have I done? What have you done to help women, and da-da-da-da-da. And she went off and she said, I'm tired of being stereotyped as a woman, as being white, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just funny, it's not funny, but it's ironic, because in that moment, even though this trans person, I think, was annoying and it wasn't the right place at the right time, it's ironic because Rose McGowan then ended up doing the exact same thing that this trans person did, right? Because to say, well, what have you done for women? It's like, I'm pretty sure a trans person has other things to worry about than Rose McGowan's rights. Frankly, that's just how I feel about it. Rose McGowan, despite her tragic past, is a white, pretty woman in Hollywood. That means, just off the bat, she's had a lot of privilege in this world. And that doesn't mean that she can't get raped or that nothing bad can happen to her, but just let's establish that there's privilege there, okay? Now, once you've established that, the fact that she would have the audacity to say to this person, who again I think was in the wrong to show up and try to shame her, but for her to have the audacity, Rose McGowan, to shame this person about what have you done for women is just so ridiculous. And it reminded me of something that nobody's been talking about with Rose McGowan, which is that years ago she said really ignorant things about gay people, and for whatever reason nobody's bringing it up. Nobody wants to talk about this, and maybe it's because when you see somebody hurting, you don't need to add fuel to the fire. But for me, it's just really difficult to stand 100% behind somebody who I know has said horrible things without consequences, and then once people try to push again an apology, she didn't budge. And that blows my mind, and that goes back to this white feminism idea, right? So I'm going to read you the quotes. Years ago, it looks like it was 2014 based on this article. So she said during this interview, gay men are as misogynistic as straight men, if not more so. You want to talk about the fact that I've heard nobody in the gay community, no gay males, standing up for women on any level. She said, I see now people who have basically fought for the right to stand on top of a float wearing an orange Speedo and take Molly. Gay misogyny is a huge problem. There's just so much to dissect here. Again, it comes from privilege to assume that any minority group needs to be there supporting you, helping you get the rights you want. What also bothers me about these comments is that it implies that gay people have fought really hard and they had all these women's support, and now everything's great for gay men and they just kind of left and weren't loyal. And it's such a ridiculous thing because there's so many gay issues still. Gay people are still struggling in their communities, in their homes, in their families' homes, at school, in the workplace. hate crime is still a thing. And obviously hate crime happens to women as well. And all those things I just mentioned can happen to women as well. But it's ignorant to say, we helped gay men, women helped gay men fight for the right to wear a Speedo on a float. That is so ignorant and so offensive to minimize gay movements and the gay struggle for civil rights, whether it's marriage or to undo what George W. Bush did, making it not a hate crime to hurt somebody or kill somebody who is gay, or repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Like, all these things are such a big deal, and for her to say, to look at gay men at gay pride and think this is what they fought for, is just so offensive. I understand, of course, that two wrongs don't make a right, and her saying these things doesn't suddenly erase her story and what's happened to her, but it just makes it so difficult for me to fully support somebody who expects or who is demanding respect, equality, awareness, but yet doesn't feel like she needs to extend that 100% to another group. I read the transphobic comments she made. She basically, in so many words, said that trans women, don't have the same experience as real women because, they don't grow up with the same childhood and growing into a woman, being a woman the same way. And she was saying that, she said that she was surprised they had never asked her what it was like to grow up as a woman. Things that basically, I don't think were straight up bigotry. I could definitely see how a trans person could be offended by those comments. I mean, there's nothing worse than telling a trans person you're not really a woman, or it's like telling a gay person, like, well, you're not really a man. There's just certain things that are just stupid. The things that she says are definitely demonstrative of just a general ignorance and a sense of entitlement that I often see with white, straight men and women. So it's a difficult thing because obviously, I think regardless of somebody's past, you should be able to sympathize enough to be an ally to any person who's gone through something this tragic. And rape is bad enough, but to go through it with somebody who's so powerful, Harvey Weinstein, and apparently she told all these people and nobody wanted to help her. I mean, that almost seems like it would be like a double rape, if that makes any sense. Like that now you have the second obstacle, and it's almost like you're reliving a tragedy. At the same time, it's difficult for me to fully stand behind her because her comments about other people of different minority groups seem to imply that she believes this is just an epidemic towards women, that this is a women issue. She keeps talking about gay misogyny in that interview. And it's like, we're all fighting the same battle, whether you want to admit it or not. Gay people, many more than you would think, gay people go through the same tragic events of rape, harassment, bigotry, hate crimes. Black people go through the same thing, immigrants, Latinos in this country. And the difference is, when it happens to those people, it tends to not become as publicized because people don't necessarily want to hear it when it's about a gay person getting raped. People don't necessarily want to hear about a black woman getting raped. And I'm not trying to downplay what's happened to her, but that's just the reality. When it happens to white women, more people are concerned and more people want to know about it. And that's just the way that it is. And I think pain is pain and rape is rape, no matter what you look like and no matter where you come from. But the fact that she doesn't have this kind of like self-awareness when talking about different groups, especially after having gone through what she's gone through, to me indicates that she feels this is more of a woman's issue. And typically people who feel that anything is more of a woman's issue tend to be white feminists because they forget that it happens to black women. They forget that it happens to Hispanic women, to immigrant women, or that it could happen to even straight men, it can happen to gay men. So it's a difficult thing. This topic is difficult because as long as you have an opinion, it's probably controversial because it's such a sensitive topic. But I'm the kind of person where I always want to stand on the right side of history. We see based on history that the future always leads to more acceptance, more understanding, more empathy towards different groups of people. There's still a lot of work to do, obviously, but history shows us that that's where we're going, and that's where things will end up. So for me, it's important to always speak out about real equality, and that no group has it harder than any other group, and that every minority group can afford to stand by their other minority brothers and sisters, because it's common sense that when you want to get a movement together, you need the support of people who don't look like you, who don't come from the same places as you. You need strength in numbers. And it seems like Rose McGowan either doesn't fully comprehend that or is too enraged to be willing to be open to another perspective. And it's a really sad thing because you see that with movements all the time, whether it's gay people, whether it's black people, whether it's women, that there's so much anger that they're reluctant to see anybody who hasn't gone through the exact same thing as them as an ally or as somebody who fully gets it. And that's such a shame. Really curious to hear what you guys think about this, and whether you have an opinion on it, whether you've thought about this before, whether you even knew that Rose McGowan had said these things in the past, and what your stance is on it.